Our first speaker of the day is Mr. Jon Kelly. Jon is a journalist and a writer for Examiner.com right here in Vancouver. But his experiences have taken his work all over the world, and his stories have been felt right around the globe. In 2001, while working as an international clinician in private practice, Jon helped make his name by breaking one of the largest global stories of the time. He knew about the Iraqi shock and awe from the U.S. military in the Middle East 2 years before it came to fruition. On his Google News syndicated column, he broke the news of Edward Snowden's UFOs of 2013, 9 months before the intercept was leaked to the press. This man is very connected. As a former journalist, I actually praise him for his efforts in breaking stories. Being the first to tell the world is the rush of covering stories for any journalist. Jon's work has been featured in some of the world's biggest media outlets, from USA Today to the BBC in London. He is an expert in cracking the code on encrypted communications in human speech. Jon's experience with the UFO and exopolitics community has everyone listening when he speaks, from photographs to videos to much more and eyewitness accounts. Jon takes the stage this morning to tell us about his experiences regarding unidentified flying objects and encounters both locally and from around the world. Jon has been featured many times on the popular syndicated radio program Coast to Coast AM, as well as radio and television right here in Canada and across the United States. He has his own YouTube channel, which has over 200 UFO videos, over 1.1 million views, and over 4,200 subscribers. Jon's independent research has taken him all over BC and across the United States, from Roswell to the ECETI Ranch in Washington State. And today we're lucky to have him open up MetaphysicalSource.com's Countdown to Contact. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Jon Kelly.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for everybody who is here this morning. It's a wonderful day and a great opportunity to speak and share with you some of my experiences, some of my information, my opinions, my biases. Maybe I will stir controversy. Perhaps I'll answer a few questions, or maybe I will just stimulate some better questions that we can all share in together. My presentation today is called UFO Journey to Inner Space. You'll find it rich in a variety of media, including video, some of my photography, and some look into my audio research as well. So without further ado, let's take a look at some of the video that I prepared that helps set the stage for today's presentation. UFO Journey to Inner Space. You know, when we think about UFOs and extraterrestrials, usually we think about phenomena of space exploration and outer space. And my premise, part of what I'm talking about today is that through our journeys, through our explorations, we will ultimately find that we are stimulating and cultivating resources for inner development through our emotions, through our neural and psychic development. We are becoming better and stronger people by challenging ourselves to understand some of the mysteries that surround us in our world. Many of the people who are here today are party to local British Columbia mysteries, and I'm sure we'll have some very exciting conversations. in our question and answer, as well as after the event. So I hope that you will enjoy some of the material I have to share. Let's take a look at some of the slides that I've prepared. A cosmos is a harmoniously ordered, inclusive, all-containing system, or a creation. A philosophy that prioritizes spirituality references the cosmic when defining life's all-pervasive spiritual arena. According to both yoga and contemporary space science, a cosmic systems administrator stance would represent the largest arena personally attainable by human beings. Epic literature in classical Sanskrit and Greek cultures includes descriptions of heroic adventures across multiple dimensions of reality found in the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Iliad, and the Odyssey. The dimension-transiting nature of each narrative characterizes these tales as meditations or inner-directed journeys focused on cosmic ideals. Now, an epic life can be distinguished by overcoming enormous personal challenges to leave a lasting progressive influence on society and the environment at the largest scale possible. And in this context, pursuit of UFO experiences following practical intimations of human cosmic potential manifest contacts whose epic implications can be shared in real time and published online for mass distribution and global education. So why am I involved in the UFO field? I'm in pursuit of the cosmic epic. I feel that somehow my life will have more meaning if I can participate in what people have been talking about and describing for years and documenting and debating about. Maybe through direct experience, I can become part of something greater, or at least find my place in this greater system that we all share, this universe in which we all live. Knowledge of the unidentified. The UFO and implied or overt ETs as cultural repositories of individual and collective speculation, imagination, superstition, and dogma. The UFO subject, I mean UFO itself, the term brings implications of unidentified. Some people say it's too vague. Some people wish we would talk about UAPs and use other types of terms that may be more precise and more scientific. But be that as it may, in the present time, most of us have been indoctrinated with the notion of UFO. And so in practical use, we will talk in this presentation about the UFO. And yet, this unidentified subject can be known. And this is, of course, the premise of my presentation as well. The UFO topic and the accompanying ETs are footballs of controversy in entrenched ongoing information warfare actively sponsored by the present governmental military-industrial complex. So this is an interesting statement from somebody who has a background including work with CBS and appearances in the online versions of major news publications. I recognize that the field in which I am playing, so to speak, is surrounded with controversy, and there was an entrenched battle going on between different parties who seek to dominate discourse and opinion as to the nature of the world and the different phenomena that we experience. And we'll get more into why that may be. The UFOs and the ETs are evidenced through direct personal experience, testimony, artifacts, trace signatures, and instrumental measurements. And you can see that I've bolded personal experience, testimony, and instrumental measurements because these three areas are the focus of my personal research, and I bring evidence forwards in these areas. Knowledge of the existence of UFOs and ETs at best can inspire personal inquiry into the nature of self and human destiny. And so I find this exercise entirely reflective. I am not necessarily in pursuit of hardware from the crashed flying saucer, inasmuch as I hope that somehow my pursuit of these ambitions will somehow serve as a catalyst to educate, instruct me, and serve as an instrument in my personal development to better me as a person. Contact is personal and it is political. Contact is transformational in the way that accompanying stimuli invoke emotional responses promoting brain development. We were talking before today's event about how many times people have been up at the podium in front of an audience and all the nerves and butterflies that can accompany those kinds of experiences. And of course, as we develop more experience, we become more conditioned to deal with those types of stimuli, and contact stimuli are no different. YouTube is populated with jittery videos from first-time observers who just happen to have their cell phone camera on hand, and they were able to capture an image. But what kind of a shaky image were they representing? Well, obviously their nervous systems were on overload. That form of neural development was still in an infant stage, and yet when people become seasoned in contact, they find that they are able to handle the camera better, they're able to act more fluidly under those pressures. Contact offers immersive experiential educational opportunities which are meaningful in subjects such as space science, social science, life science, ecological science, and many, many other disciplines. Paraphrase Shiva, the yoga teacher, he said that all humans are qualified at birth to receive this form of education. All people, by dint of their human incarnation, are qualified for cosmic experiences. So does that include contact with the UFOs and ETs and some level of understanding? According to that philosophy, it would seem to be. However, at the same time, unsanctioned, non-official human access to cosmic phenomena, including encounters with time, space, and dimensional travelers, is a source of controversy in our Western society. And particularly, we can see from a political perspective that contact has historically provided evidence for determination of leadership, as found in the monarchist concepts of a mandate of heaven and the divine right of kings. Now, the Durant report to the CIA's Robertson panel of 1953 in the 20th century, the mid-20th century, cited potential subversion as justification for surveillance of publicly supported UFO communities, anticipating their potential great influence on mass thinking in times of widespread contact. And so the Romans' question to the historic or literary Jesus, are you the king of the Jews, would seem to play in today's UFO contact society as well, that the establishment is still trying to determine who may be engaged in subversion or trying to incite subversion through their evident acceptance of perhaps their cosmic nature. ET contact is predominantly psychic. This is one of the conclusions, or perhaps one of the foregone conclusions of my research. One of the threads that I seek to expand upon in my research and my interviews of contactees, experiencers, and videographers is the psychic nature of their contact. Now, operating on-demand spaceship services to meet global requirements for reported physical contact is inordinately expensive in terms of both personnel and material resources when performed on a human scale. Just think about how much UFO contact may be happening on a global scale daily, around the clock, around the world. And how are we to understand this in terms of cost of training, staffing, storage, maintenance, supplies, insurance, all of the other considerations that would accompany a human effort? How could we possibly replicate that on a human scale? It would seem inordinately expensive. Understanding this idea, we can see that the nature of psychic contact as the dominant form of contact is compliant with theories of economy and efficiency in accordance with the axiom that nothing is wasted in nature. And so natural systems are about utilization, efficiency, and economy. It would seem that systems that are able to operate in ways that transcend known laws of physics would still have to maintain compliance with that type of baseline standard. Now, in order to have psychic contact with the ETs, we're going to have psychically developed ETs on the other end of the line. We're going to have a send-receive relationship. We're going to have multiple parties capable of participating. We're going to understand that these phenomena are occurring because they are knowable through dreams, visions, telepathy, and other forms of inner sensing. And certainly, having surveyed the headlines, the topics that our speakers today will be discussing, we will be hearing more and more on this thread. People in Vancouver seem to be open to this idea that the psychic development can be part of the UFO and the ET contact experience. At the same time, we also can see that objectively, these interactions are measurable, or the existence of these interactions are measurable through the predictive nature of some contacts. And we will be looking at a closer look at some of the contactees that I've worked with in their video production that is produced in a way that anticipates the events prior to their occurring, enabling them to have their equipment on site and ready to go before the events begin. The psychic inner space, which I say in the title of this talk, is the dimension to which we are journeying. Ultimately, we will be encountering the contents of our psychic inner space through our endeavors to understand the greater universe. This space, in part, serves as a shared communications arena between humans and ETs in the same way that earthbound social networks support instant messaging between members, notwithstanding distances between parties. So if many people here are Facebook or Twitter users on the social networks, they understand the notion of online chat and instant messaging. Notwithstanding distance, your friend in Moscow or Berlin can message you in real time, and you can communicate back using that physical infrastructure. And this models the psychic dimension in which telepathic contacts transcend distances even beyond earthly distances. Now, the philosophy that I bring to understand, or the context within which I understand the psychic phenomena, is my training and long-term study in yoga. And so yoga philosophy defines the psychic inner space by gateway and meridian architecture with accompanying dimensional worlds and acoustic properties. And people familiar with Sanskrit culture and Vedic and tantric practices will know about meditations based on mantras, chakras, energy meridians in the body, and so on, which is what I'm describing here. The yoga psychology defines the inner space as a seat of emotions, desires, and other traits of consciousness and personality. And so, again, the heightened emotions of contact enabling us to access primal feelings and instincts, and even perhaps outgrow and overcome limitations that may result in transformations to our personalities. And in terms of yoga, the most rudimental way of describing the yogic meditation approach is to say that the earth is the launching pad, the body is the spaceship, and the mind is the cosmonaut. And so we have all of the instruments to complete our journey. It's our birthright. We were born this way. We have enough, we are enough, and we will achieve our goal. Now, in our video, we saw an unusual looking character with an eye on his forehead, and I've drawn from the classical South Asian culture to create this montage to suggest the combination of 2001: A Space Odyssey, the SR-71 high-altitude spacecraft, and Shiva, the tantric guru, who embodies personal experience of the cosmic, is established and optimized psycho-spiritual development, or what is described as self-knowledge, who manifests ancient, present, future ET and human performance potentialities, yet at the same time remains indifferent to all of them. And I think this characteristic is important as we proceed in approaching these topics of mystery in our desire to understand. You know, when we grasp too intently towards our objective, our goal, it may shrink away from us due to the intensity of our feeling that we must need or have these experiences. You know, some people may feel that they would sell their own grandmother if only they could have contact with ETs and psychic phenomena. But according to Shiva, this would be the wrong approach. And so this indifference, you know, this sense of something greater, and this allowance, this permission, so to speak, for things to just happen and let the Tao flow, so to speak, in our lives, to let the phenomena occur, and let things manifest as they will, and allow us to bear witness to and participate in them in such a way that we are not overly anxious, this is not a source of anxiety, in other words, but rather this is a pleasurable phenomenon, a pleasurable experience, and something that is transcendent. It's expanding our awareness. We are growing as people. We are becoming better people through those contacts. And finally, Shiva's methodology was to utilize and endorse ecstatic meditation as a vehicle of discovery, along with constructive action in all spheres of individual and social life. So as I said, the earth is the launching pad, the body is the spaceship, and the mind is our cosmonaut. UFO videos. This is one of the areas that I will indulge in with you this morning to share from material that I've collected on my various road trips and shared experiences with colleagues, friends, and other persons. I will introduce you to some of them. In other words, I am not standing here alone this morning, but I am bringing with you tales from the road, my journeys, my far journeys in consciousness and experience with other contactees, other videographers that have been very insightful and very educational for me. What is video? In a nutshell, we're looking at instrumental measurements of light in visible and near-infrared wavelengths. My catalog is comprised of daylight 3 CCD high definition and infrared, starlight 3 CCD color and infrared images, image through 180-degree wide angle all sky, and approximately 1246 millimeter in 35 millimeter equivalent telephoto lenses, digital night vision, second and third generation tube-based night vision. We'll see some of that equipment in application in some of the samples I'll be playing for you shortly. Video offers evidence beyond simple testimony using affordable technology as accessible as a cellular telephone. And so those of us who don't have cell phones in this room, raise your hand if you don't have a cell phone. And we can see that that is sort of the minority at this point. So the rest of us are enabled with camera equipment in our pockets, whether we choose to use it or not. The majority of the population at this time in history is enabled with a variety of camera equipment, some of it quite sophisticated in the different types of smartphones, iPhones, and so on. UFO video provides a means of independent third-party evaluation of contiguous subject behavior over time. Video portrays motion, and so we are able to observe behavior over time. This is valuable for us in conducting evaluations of what videos may represent, what witnesses may have observed. It's a very valuable form of information. At the same time, video provides recourse to further post-event archival evaluation by the researcher, and so the reflective researcher is constantly sifting through their archives, evaluating and re-evaluating their findings in an attempt to understand and decipher what particular meaning or significance any of the evidence may possess. And I was speaking to my colleague Chuck earlier, and we were saying that, you know, today's representation of what may be what it is that I will be sharing with you may only be my best assessment in today's terms, and in a few years I may have second thoughts and reconsideration of some of the evidence in terms of its relative value. And so we are constantly evaluating and re-evaluating, and through the development and maintenance of archives and libraries of media, we are being assisted to remember and to reevaluate by provisioning for that. Live broadcasting of UFO contact events is available through online distribution platforms, including YouTube, and I have taken a healthy leverage of that resource by, in fact, being the first to live broadcast UFO incidents from my Vancouver deck. I think in 2012, I was the first to YouTube in history. The first person in YouTube history. Boy, what a meaningful appellation. And yet all of us can as easily access these live broadcasting resources if we are skilled with computers and we know how to attach a camera to our computer. We can participate in UFO events and broadcast them live to the world at the same time. I think that's very exciting. UFO videos are characterized, or the UFO video culture is characterized by continuously evolving methods and innovative applications of existing technologies that are energized in part through participation in user groups found in online communities. And so there are many people around the world actively participating in recording UFOs on video and are investing in the development of their research methods, innovation, and sharing through dialogues that are facilitated through online user groups. The internet is serving to foment a more informed UFO video development culture. So that is a very interesting consequence of our modern age. Paranormal photos is another area that I'm involved in. I have a substantial library of high quality, high resolution images. We will look at just a few of those today, but it certainly was an area that I spent time in. Photography, it provides instrumental measurements of light, supporting higher resolution imaging than most video in present day. Consumer 1 megapixel, 4, and prosumer 5 megapixel digital cameras are instruments that I have used. Of course, there are higher resolution cameras constantly being developed, but my archives, my photographic archives were developed using this type of equipment. Photography emphasizes detail over motion capture. It offers evidence beyond simple testimony, using affordable technology as accessible as a cellular telephone again. Provides a means of independent third-party evaluation and forensics via the EXIF data encrypted into the digital images. And so EXIF data is a backup. It's the camera's instructions as to the performance of the lens and other systems in the camera. What was the camera doing at the time the photo was recorded? This can tell us a lot about the subjects that may be imaged and the conditions under which they were photographed. Photography provides recourse to further post-event archival evaluation again, and widespread support available again through participation in user groups found in online communities. Paranormal photography is very, very popular online. Orb photography. How many people have photographed an orb? Well, quite a few people. And so we were familiar with this popular subject. People are excited. They want to know more about what photography can tell us about the other dimensions of this world. And this third leg that my research stands on is, perhaps I'm most well known for, is the study of mirror encrypted communications. I am involved in an advanced method of remote interrogation based on the indirect observation of sound waves reflected through a digital mirror. I am looking at observable phenomena of encrypted speech communications that are found in the vocalizations of both preverbal children and adults. These phenomena are related to the disclosures provided through sleep talking and Freudian slips. The studies are less invasive than hypnotherapy and pharmacology. They are publicly demonstrated to provide testable information characterized by military forensic and clinical precision. In clinical applications, they offer related acoustic benefits of intensive yogic mantric recital while bypassing many of the requirements for practical yoga initiation. In other words, people don't have to become vegetarians in order to understand their unconscious secrets as revealed through mirror encrypted speech communications. Now, again, unsanctioned, non-official access to secret communications and its implications is a source of controversy in surveillance-obsessed Western society. And having been on the media front edge of this subject for 14, 15 years, I can assure you that I have encountered many of the thresholds of tolerance in our North American society for the disclosure of secrets, and yet somehow I am still here. These phenomena reveal unconscious secrets encrypted within the testimony of the UFO contactees, and this is especially valuable in the absence of any other form of substantiating evidence. And so we understand that most UFO reporting, the majority, is testimony-based, which has some value, although limited value. And we will see later how scientists, legacy scientists, have cried for better methods in dealing with interrogation, and how this approach is responding to the call of those legacy scientists for improved methods of interrogation. So these are the three areas, video, photography, and voice communication studies that I will be sharing with you. And there is my mouse, and we're moving ahead. Let's look at some of the people and places that I visited. We'll start with some of the people whose work I have studied and learned from. Jim Steik is the director of UFONV.com. He's based in Artesia, New Mexico, which is 40 miles south of Roswell, New Mexico, the much storied site of alien spacecraft crash, recovery, retrieval, secret cover-ups. Many books, many films and television shows have been written about Roswell. Jim Steik is in the region. He's watching the skies 40 miles south of Roswell. He's a pioneer in applied digital night vision, surveillance camera, and motion detection systems for UFO skywatching and recording. So Jim represents the person in the field, the grassroots investigator who's not necessarily affiliated with any particular organization and yet has a personal interest and an investment in developing research and methodologies that he's actively sharing by utilizing the internet. So I see in Jim, you know, potentially whole teams and organizations of persons who feel the same way, who want to know some answers, who are willing to tinker and invest a little bit of their personal time to develop resources. And we'll have a conversation or two with people about how to develop their own systems. I certainly learned a lot from following Jim's work. Jim is a contactee and experiencer with a substantial personal library of night vision UFO videos recorded in the New Mexico desert. And he is featured in my production, UFO Desert, The Artesian Contacts on YouTube. You can watch him there. But why don't we take a little look at Jim and his work in a video that I've prepared. And here it is.
Once you can see beyond our atmosphere, our government doesn't have as much control. Not at this time. They may later in the future, but right now I don't think they do. If we could get, the average citizen can't get out there. They, with some of this hardware, you know, night vision and so forth, on a clear night, you can see into space.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! What the hell was that? That's big, bright, and orange. There it is still. Oh shit. Oh my God.
So in 2010, I embarked on a road trip that took me into the U.S. Southwest to Artesia, New Mexico, to visit with Jim Stike, to interview him, to learn about his methods, to visit the site of his contacts, to go to the desert and skywatch. We had some very interesting conversations. I documented the highlights in that production, UFO Desert. I hope that you will watch it on my YouTube channel. And we can see from Jim's vocalizations uttered during that contact incident how exciting and emotionally stimulating that was for him, how the neurological factors were at play when we saw Jim stumbling and struggling with his equipment to get on point and to stay on subject while that intensely bright, silent object passed overhead. Now, Jim is enabled with some very sophisticated equipment that supports him in his tracking efforts, allowing him to mark the passage of known satellites and other space objects, including ISS. Jim is qualified to differentiate between the known and the unknown. And if you study his catalog and you visit his website, ufonv.com, you'll find he and a whole community of users are actively studying these phenomena and learning and sharing their methodologies. And so, a very instructive, short clip from Jim Stike, and certainly, again, someone I find at the grassroots levels, he's just a model for you and me, the everyday person who has an interest, has a little bit of ambition, a little bit of extra energy. They're going to make a difference in the world by finding some new discoveries and sharing them with the world. James Gilliland, who is here in the Cascadian region in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, in the Columbia River Gorge area near Mount Adams, actively recording and documenting and facilitating contact, a very influential figure in contemporary UFO research. He's the founder of ESETI, or the Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence Group. Their website is eseti.org. They're based near Mount Adams, Washington, in the Cascade Range. And so when we see Mount Baker on a clear day from Vancouver, we understand we're at the northern edge of the Cascades. And as we go down a few peaks, Rainier, St. Helens, we get to Adams, Hood, Sisters, Mount Jefferson, Shasta, and so on. That substantiates the Cascade Range of mountains. James has facilitated thousands of participants in mass skywatch and contact events hosted on his private property. He's amassed a substantial library of color and night vision video over a multi-decade independent study near the site of the Kenneth Arnold 1947 Flying Saucers incident. And so James is active in an area that has widespread reported UFO phenomena based on an incident that happened in the 1940s. The term flying saucer was coined based on reports of objects observed by a private aircraft pilot named Kenneth Arnold in 1947, who said that he observed those objects in their descent towards Mount Adams at the end of his sighting. And people on the ground, such as James Gilliland, are actively observing the related objects. He's a contactee, an experiencer, a spiritual practitioner. He claims face-to-face contact with spiritual ETs, physical burns during contact, and flight on UFOs. He's featured in the YouTube miniseries UFO Mountain, along with numerous interviews on terrestrial television, radio, online. Not a very difficult person to find, highly visible individual in this field, source of some controversial ideas, but also a lot of awesome video. Let's look at some highlights from his 2013 video by James Gilliland.
So how do you know if it's a satellite or a ship?
Tell it to power up.
Power up.
Just got bigger. There it goes. Look, it's getting brighter. Oh, it's going down again. See it get brighter? Oh, look.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Oh yeah, that's total power up.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Look how big that is. It's coming right at us. It's underneath it. It's coming right up to meet it. It's just crossed it. Oh wow, it's totally powering up. Whoa! Whoa! Check it out. It's gonna do it. Oh, it's almost.
Yeah!
Yeah! Look at that. It's getting brighter. Oh yeah, there it goes. Total power up. Whoa! Did it again. Total power up. Did you see that? It totally powered up. Total power up. Check it out. Tell me you got that. Whoa, look at this thing. Whoa, there it went. See that? Whoa, look at it. Look at it. You can do it. There it goes. Here it goes. Here it goes. Look at that. Woohoo! Got it. Look at that. Boom. Got him. I got him. Yeah, I got it. Power up. All right, nice. Powered up. Oh, look, there it goes. Look, power up. Total. Woohoo! Nice. I got it. It's powering up. Total power up right over us. Got it. There it is. There it is. Total power up. Total power up. Wow. Wow. Did you see that? Oh, look, here it goes. Here it goes. Oh, whoa. Holy crap.
Oh, yeah. Of course, Mount Adams, beautiful Cascadian peak at the northern end of the ranch where James is facilitating all this contact. You can hear the crowds are with him. He's not alone in these incidents. This is not one person in the wilderness. This is teams of individuals out on a nightly basis under marvelous clear sky conditions. He's using third-generation night vision. All kinds of other equipment will show up there through the course of a season. I've been a guest at the ranch for many years, since the late 1990s, and one of the principal videographers at that location since 2009. Dwana Paul, with whom I traveled across the southern United States, is a trance medium based in Dallas, Texas. Her website is dwanapaul.com. She's produced dozens of hours of indoor light phenomena, or micro-UFOs, video recorded while providing grievance counseling for families of the deceased. She's been featured on television's A Current Affairs Sightings, Weird Travels on the Travel Channel, as well as a special entitled Haunted Lives for CBS that also aired on Sci-Fi. Let's take a look at some of Dwana Paul's micro-UFOs as counterpart to all these amazing things that may be out in space. What's happening closer to the inner space? Dwana Paul may know.
As we close, we say, go to the heart and let yourself absorb some of this wonderful healing that's in the room.
The last circle, which was the 27th, you had the video on. You know, when I was talking to the 4 women over to my right, and those lights showed up. They came to hear from the father, the brother, and he came through, and it showed a light. And it was absolutely incredible.
People engaged in healing work, spiritual development, aware of other dimensions of consciousness and reality, also participants in these types of phenomena. Dwana Paul has a very substantial library of video. She does typically 4 or 5 camera shoots, so a lot of redundant information in her library, and I was fortunate enough to travel with and witness to a number of her circles and the phenomena that accompany them. Quite profound. Les Mirza, A British Columbia native and longtime Vancouver resident, his YouTube channel, FIOY, Figure It Out Yourself, he says. His contacts are characterized by precognitive dreams and out-of-body experiences, and to also reflect that James Gilliland's testimony is rich in precognitive and out-of-body phenomena. And having stood side by side with James night after night, I've seen him anticipate the power-ups as he described them over and over again. It's really quite remarkable working with somebody who's able to do that. Les is no different in his precognitive abilities. He's produced a substantial catalog of 3 CCD HD color video in the UFO corridor near Vancouver City Hall. He's facilitated multi-season field research at the Okanagan UFO Canyon in southwestern British Columbia, and he's been featured extensively in the Vancouver UFO Examiner and numerous videos on YouTube's Secret Message TV. Let's have a little look at what Les Mirza's work has been all about with some of his most recent material from Vancouver in 2014.
This latest footage from the Mount Pleasant UFO corridor continues in a tradition of published neighborhood imaging that extends back at least as early as 1937. The camera's redundant triple sensor array, combined with patented focus assist technology, offers a clear, high-definition view of what can only be described as the flight of an anomaly, one in a series of events that has been documented at this location in recent years. The UFO, as captured on video, presents an opaque tumbling body whose seemingly variable morphology is accentuated by multicolored perimeter and surface lighting. There is a possibility of at least one highly reflective surface on the object displaying mid-evening sunlight. However, the number of reflected facets required to produce the variety of illuminations shown in the video is presently unknown. Canadian UFO videographer Les Mirza has been cited in the press for precognitive dreams that anticipate times and locations, informing him of when and where to set up his camera equipment in advance. His contacts are characterized by extensive out-of-body travel, telepathy, and clairvoyance, embodying the psychic dimensions of contact and their priority in accumulating substantial instrumental evidence of long-term educational value.
I had a rash of sightings, actually. It started with the fleet sighting, and then I had a flyby of 5 objects, quite low, and then I had 3 objects sustained in the sky for about a half an hour.
A sophisticated multi-sensor broadcast camera that has followed Les Mirza into the Mount Pleasant UFO corridor for the past several years has replicated his findings of anomalous contacts in both infrared and visible light. Daylight objects that leave colorful trails, change directions once during 40 minutes of observation, and hover over local parks while videographers scramble to bring them into focus, characterize the phenomena as recorded in one of the most redundantly substantiated UFO contact cases to emerge from British Columbia. A new streaming-on-demand experiential UFO contact class discusses the psychic dimensions of Les Mirza's journey into discovery while providing orientation for beginners using infrared night vision optics for UFO skywatching and recording.
All right, that goes on to a little plug for my class. I'm offering instruction online, and you can find out more at my table. So I hope if you're interested in UFO classes, you will go to the table outside where we have information in writing that you can take with you. You can visit my website, yourinyourvoice.com, and find out more about that. In the interest of time, we will just wrap up that video there. Let's continue ahead. From Les Mirza, we now go to Charles Lamoureux. Charles is here in spirit with us. He couldn't be here today, but certainly is here in spirit. And he's a Yaletown resident, an astronomer, and a former skeptic, while being an innovative UFO videographer. His website is howtoufo.com, and that site will be populated with all kinds of interesting stuff in the days to come, so I hope you'll visit him there. He engineered what he calls the Skywatchers Mobile Unit, or the SMU, multi-camera platform featured in many of his videos. He's produced a substantial catalog of digital night vision, color digital night vision, tube-based night vision, and HD color UFO videos focused on events occurring over English Bay and downtown Vancouver. He's a relative of Leonard Lamoureux, the photographer who imaged a UFO flying over Vancouver City Hall in 1937, hence Les Mirza's activity in the Mount Pleasant area, continuing the legacy of the Lamoureux who are photographing UFOs over City Hall in 1937. Charles Lamoureux, believe it or not, appears in Vancouver as a 21st century UFO videographer. He's been featured on CTV News, the Vancouver Sun, the Georgia Straight, and numerous interviews on YouTube. Let's have a quick look at some special by special request video from Charles that he forwarded to me for today's presentation. And
This latest...
that should have jumped ahead. Just a second as I do this. And there it is. Okay, we'll just jump up to 2 minutes.
In the atmosphere, this is not. This was coming up from.
Okay, so Charles is observing, he's showing repeatedly that he's observing this wobbler phenomena that he reports over English Bay. Here's digital night vision with laser pointer activity as he highlights the subject of his video using affordable digital night vision.
Finally, getting some action tonight. I got an object here that's tumbling. This is directly about 60 degrees in the west. I just spotted 2 UFOs earlier. Actually, it was an orb.
Note there's a depression in the center.
Either another orb or
the absence of light indicated in the center of that object.
Just about a minute
Very
or two
interesting
ago.
characteristic.
And this one is
torus
just
shape seemingly.
moving very slowly. I think I've had one of these before. It's either a wobbler or I can't really see on the small screen, so I'm a little excited because I'm finally getting some action.
And there he goes. So multiple instances of the same object apparently or its relatives flying over his property with enough time for him to conduct a meaningful observation, produce recordings. Quite talented videographer is Charles Lamoureux. And an important video that came from his desk just this summer shows, I think, superb evidence of what skeptics may deride as evidence satellite behavior, man-made space junk or rocket bodies or perhaps communication satellites. Well, let's watch this object in its progress across the screen. Travels across the sky in a unidirectional fashion. It is yellow, orange in color, one of the innovations of color digital night vision, allowing us to collect color data from the object that we're observing. Now it appears minute. There's only, maybe a few dozen pixels of data in that image, but it's the object behavior over time that is most meaningful in this video. And while we're waiting for something more to happen, I will state that time and investment of time in observation is valuable in allowing us to determine what may be going on. In other words, UFO research in the field involves an investment of time. We have to stay with our subject over time in order to detect changes in behavior. And so by tracking this object over time, Charles is able to demonstrate that, in fact, it has changed direction. Unlike any satellite, space junk, known man-made object in Earth orbit, this object has just changed direction. We're looking at what everyone's been talking about, and it's happening over Vancouver, and our local community members are actively recording educational videos to instruct us in the nature of the reality that is surrounding us. So what may seem at first glance to be like a satellite, with a small investment of time, we are permitted to understand. It instructs us in how it is different from known phenomena. It changes behavior. Some satellites just don't change direction. I mean, it just doesn't happen. So that is some very valuable information from Charles. He's got lots of videos on his YouTube channel, and How to UFO will link you there. So go check out what Charles is up to and all the great things he's doing locally. Very proud of Charles as someone who's embracing technology and active in publishing. I'm so pleased that he's on the scene, continuing the legacy of the Lamoureux, who've put Vancouver on the map with that famous Leonard Lamoureux photo of City Hall and its accompanying UFO. Let's go to one of the destinations that I visited in the southern United States, Marfa, Texas, the site of the Marfa lights phenomena, observed at night in the Chihuahuan Desert of West Texas at a reported rate of up to 20 instances per year. Longtime state residents report lights that appear at the side of the road and approach parked vehicles in close proximity. The $1 million Marfa Lights Viewing Center observation platform constructed by the site of a former Army airfield provides popular tourist destination along U.S. Route 67. 30 miles from the reported 1974 Mexico's Roswell incident involving a collision between a UFO and a small aircraft, resulting in a crash site and recovery operations. Marfa is more than just lights on the ground. There's a UFO crash site out there. Really interesting stuff. Let's take a look at Marfa.
bright.
Wow.
This is a good shot. You're getting it in color. It's a slow shutter color, but
I think they're telling us this red light over here, and this is. Did you see that?
do they normally do that?
No.
All right, as we continue on our inner-directed journey, let's take a stop by another famous site in Texas, Stephenville, Texas, the site of the reported largest mass UFO sighting incident of its time since the 1997 Phoenix Lights. An FAA radar report described an enormous object that flew within 10 miles of President George W. Bush's Western White House on January 8, 2008. According to the Mutual UFO Network, an AWACS, or Airborne Warning and Command System, and F-16 military aircraft were operating near the scene during the incident. An enormous transponderless object was tracked moving towards the Crawford Ranch for over an hour, reaching a distance of 7 miles from its security perimeter. Stephenville Lights witness Ricky Sorrells described another enormous object that filled his field of view while hunting on his property in Dublin, Texas, which is just the next town over, in December of 2007. And this witness was the target of numerous incidents of stalking, harassment, intrusion, and intimidation that included low overflights of black, unmarked helicopters at his property. Subsequent to going public with his UFO story, is information warfare going on? Is it active? Are there resources being applied? Well, absolutely. Here we are in Dublin. This is the site of Ricky Sorrells' massive UFO. We'll bring up the zoom a little bit. Let's watch this part of the screen. Not an awesome shot. It was all wide angle. It should have been telephoto, but hey, I just let the camera roll as it would. So at least I can say I was in Stephenville. I mean, that's not bad, and that certainly was a strange object. We saw it with our naked eyes. It was unusual. So yeah, that's my Stephenville story. Let's go to Dallas, Texas, where an object that resembled a daylight star to the naked eye was seen flying from north to south at high altitude under powered flight over Dallas, Texas on October 15, 2010. The UFO maintained both a steady trajectory and constant speed throughout the 6-minute period of observation. While in flight, the object presented a strobing, multicolored light display and radically transforming morphology. The contact took place in a window of time concurrent with reports of remarkable events of October 13, 2010, when mass eyewitness accounts were substantiated by videos of multiple UFOs hovering over Manhattan in New York City. The New York City incident appeared to validate the claims of retired NORAD officer, a Canadian named Stanley A. Fulham. His book, Challenges of Change, listed October 13, 2010 as a tentative date for the appearance of UFO fleets over major cities around the world. A veteran Texas aviation insider and private aircraft operator was able to identify the object shown in this video. Let's take a look at what happened over Dallas on that day.
It's about 10 to 3, October 15th, 2010, Addison, Texas. Baba
Addison, the Dallas Metroplex is vast and incorporates Addison and its regional airport. What am I singing? Babanam Kebalam? I'm chanting in Sanskrit. I mean, I'm on an interdirected journey. I'm in pursuit of the epic. So I think if I can remember my spiritual values at such a time, perhaps I can, I can be at my best in such a moment of contact. Such ambassadorship seems to be occurring. I will want to remember my spiritual ideals at those times. Mount Adams, Washington. We've already taken a look at James Gilliland, but just a recap. The terminus point of the Kenneth Arnold 1947 Flying Saucers incident, a landmark in the region of the David Akers multi-decade Yakima Light study. The report on the investigation of nocturnal lights phenomena at Toppenish, Washington, August 1972, describes how photographic captures were produced by phenomena that approached the observer. And so I think I've taken a lesson, James Gilliland as well, and many others, about the nature, the passive nature of the receiving contact. The camera's lens is like a window that allows light to pass through to the film or the sensor. The camera is not a transmitter, it's a receiver in a communication system. And it seems that David Akers, the electrical engineer who was tasked with this mission to do his multi-decade study by Dr. J. Allen Hynek, felt the same way, that the phenomena would approach the observer if we would simply make some room. We would allow some space. We wouldn't be too grasping. We wouldn't be putting our grandmother up on the chopping block if only something would happen. We would rather relax and allow things to happen of their own accord. And Akers was quite successful, and of course James Gilliland and myself were very successful in recording in that area. Mount Adams, location of the East City Ranch, has played host to thousands of participants in UFO Skywatch and contact events, and regional incidents were reportedly informed the design of standards for UFO special effects seen in the 1977 film Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So they took a page from Dr. Hynek's data collected through David Akers to make that movie. Dr. Hynek actually appeared in that film. Okanagan, British Columbia, home of the Ogopogo cryptid that reportedly inhabits Lake Okanagan, along with numerous reports of resident Sasquatch. Local UFO reports include a 1952 Summerland incident in which a UFO that was observed boating across the lake became airborne, changed direction, then hovered 50 feet above the water at less than 100 feet from observers. Local television news covering July 2014 regional summer fires in West Kelowna inadvertently captured a daylight UFO on camera that left a trail of water condensation as it emerged from a cloud. Okanagan serves as home for the off-grid UFO Canyon multi-year independent skywatching and contact study featured in the Vancouver UFO Examiner. You can read more about it there. Let's have a look at what's going on in the Okanagan from the visual perspective. And I see that my videos have jumped a page, so we will go back to Okanagan UFOs. And let's have a look at those. And just awesome sky conditions out there, awesome sky conditions. Razor sharp skies. It's home of a radio observatory. People here visited the Okanagan or are resident there. One of the greatest locations in my experience for sky watching due to awesome sky conditions. We are approaching time, and I'm sure that no one will mind if I spend an extra hour, because right? So I've only gotten through part of my presentation, and maybe I will just go a few more minutes before we go to Q&A. And well, you can come to visit me at my table outside, and we can chat about all sorts of interesting things. You can share your stories with me, and we can talk about some of the information I've shared with you today. I hope I've maybe begun to answer a few questions or inspired new and innovative questions amongst you. And I'm certain that I have continue to have more and more to learn on this subject as well. And I hope that I have many years of sky watching and field research in me as well. Vancouver has been cited as the UFO capital of Canada. And we've already seen that. And we've seen local video from Les Merza and Charles Lamoureux. It continues to happen. UFO phenomena continue to happen here in the city of Vancouver. Let's quickly look at my photography, and we will wrap up with one of my speech studies, and that will be today's talk. Encounters with the avatars. The concept of avatar is popularized in the James Cameron film Avatar, but what does the Sanskrit term really mean? Well, Sanskrit culture has some very significant ideas, and it's why am I interested in this topic? It's because, not only because of my yoga studies, but because of my evidence in my library. So let's take a look at why we're talking about avatars today on the UFO conference. Vishnu, the cosmic sysadmin. In Sanskrit culture, in the Vedas, Vishnu is cited as the supreme abode of souls. He occupies the role of administrator in the Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva trinity. In Vedic culture, Vishnu is conceived as taking manifest forms or avatars across various ages or periods to save humanity from evil. These forms include animal, demi-human, human, and divine human incarnations. In yoga culture, all human beings are recognized as avatara, or incarnations of divinity, and the neo-humanist philosophy of yoga recognizes the cosmic potential of each and every entity throughout the creation. This designation isn't just for the few, it belongs to all of us. So in my photographic catalog, I've successfully rendered several of these classical iconic forms, which can be vetted against the literary sources. And I'm talking multi-thousand-year-old classic South Asian culture literary sources, and yet these photographs emerged here in the early 20th century here in Vancouver. So while I was actively engaged in photographic studies during my meditation practices, I rendered these images. Kerma the turtle is one of the classic images, characterized by the forehead tilak marking. In this case is invert. In the Vaishnava culture of India, we'll find people with a V-shaped mark on the forehead. In this case, the V is inverted. Kerma the turtle appeared in my photographic catalog. Who else showed up during my meditations? Varaha the boar was here. Varaha has a special characteristic in that his tongue is curled up in the mudra that implies control over the speech organ, and it's commonly used in meditation practices. It's not just your average porcine, but in fact, this dude is practicing meditation. He shows he knows something about mudras. Narahari, the lion person, is depicted here in this face with fangs and a smile. He's wearing a crown that has totemic architecture in which a bird with its outstretched wings is perched over his forehead. Upon the bird is the rider, Vamana, the little person, depiction of Vishnu with earrings, crown, and a garland of 7 disc skulls or flowers. Above Vishnu's head is the lotus, and above is Ananta Shesha, the serpent cobra form, wearing a triple-pointed crown. All classical Vaishnava iconography can be checked with the literary sources appearing in 21st century photography. And finally, Rama, the spiritual person, shows a bird on the forehead, again, compliant with the previous image, but in higher resolution. We can see the bird with outstretched wings, 2 eyes, and the beak at the forehead. In compliance with the architecture of the yantra of the 6th chakra, the Jina chakra yantra is bird-like in that there are 2 petals displayed on either side of the central disc. All of these were rendered from original frames shown here that were mirrored across the y-axis. So the faces were resolved through mirror or reflection, use of a mirror or reflection. Reflection, of course, is a concept that is found in meditation practices. Reflection of consciousness, or Purusha, in the unit object is known as Jivatma, or the unit soul, according to the text Ananda Sutra, which leads me to my studies of mirror-filtered audio recordings, for which I became very famous. I'm answering the call of science because I understand that eminent researcher Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who I cited earlier in the Yakima Light Studies, he wrote in his book, the UFO Experience, a Scientific Inquiry of the 1960s U.S. Air Force. Project Blue Book was a cover-up to the extent that the assigned problem was glossed over for one reason or another. He said that in my many years' association with Blue Book, he's quoted as saying, I do not recall ever one serious discussion of methodology, of improving the process of data gathering, or of techniques of comprehensive interrogation of witnesses. This was the federal government's UFO scientist, the United States federal government's UFO scientist representing on the Blue Book panel, saying that it was a fraud. In the early 21st century, a controversial new procedure has emerged in an attempt to respond to the need for improved interrogative methods in cases absent of any further substantiating evidence other than the UFO testimony. This procedure utilizes reflections of sound waves derived from voice recordings which are monitored for encrypted unconscious communications. These communications can be demonstrated to possess military, forensic, and clinical accuracy at great distances. And those demonstrations, I performed the majority of them in public, on air for CBS, and other media, live on radio, before the events happen, and so on. My demonstrations are a matter of public record on a very wide scale. I provide professional counseling services using this technique, and it has been vetted by medical and counseling professionals throughout North America who tout my work very highly in this regard. I provide an online UFO contact class. More information about both can be found at my table. I'm also offering access to night vision equipment as an optics consultant. I'm supporting clients throughout the world with their night vision skywatch endeavors, and you can find out more about that equipment at my desk as well. I write the Vancouver UFO Examiner for examiner.com, and I offer an opportunity for patrons to help me in my production efforts. The inordinate number of hours that go into production to bring a presentation like this to you today, you know, the hours in the field, the hours to transport equipment, the cost in personnel, everything, incredible mountain of expenses that's accumulated just to reach that peak of insight and information, just so we can get a glimpse perhaps of some truth and become inspired to be better, to be more clear and more precise in our understanding, and to overcome whatever limitations it is that we may feel that are holding us back from doing the great things in our lives that we really were meant to do. So I think, should we go to questions at this point? I think in the interest of time, I'm going to cut it short. I have a massive library of content, and with your support, I can produce documentaries, complete my documentary projects on the Okanagan, on Vancouver, on East City Ranch, my other travels, bring more of this material to light. I hope you've enjoyed what I've had to share. And at this time, I invite any questions that may be here in the audience. Yes, please.
What do you think about the photon belt? And there was a film that came out a while ago, about a year or so ago, about it. Do you think that there'll be some sort of effect on the DNA and consciousness that will be kind of relevant, or will it be just kind of, you know, the vernacular background?
My research doesn't attempt to answer that question. Okay. But it's a very interesting scientific question, and I appreciate your interest in those kinds of questions. Yes?
Those images of Lord Narasimha and Lord Brahma, where did you get them?
I produced them photographically during meditation practices. You know, what I didn't do is I didn't share with you, and you should hear, I think you should hear the procedure yourselves, and I neglected to click on the audio link. So let's listen to the sound that was uttered at the time of production of the Rama image. That is the live sound from the production of this image. That's concurrent with this image and its production. So the procedure was to perform exercises in Sanskrit chanting.
Would you repeat again what was the connection of this image to did you pick this up from I don't know what you said previously. Where did this come from?
Well, it was produced during the utterance of that mantra, the Om mantra. So the image production occurred at that time. That is the soundtrack, from the live sound from when that image was recorded.
Where did the image appear?
In front of the lens.
So the camera picked it up?
This is a photographic image rendered by an instrument, a photograph or camera.
This is wrong. This is not a picture of Ronald.
Well, as the author, I am exercising my editorial right to formulate an opinion concerning the results of my endeavor, although I'm open to engaging in various discussions about them.
This is an image of an ET. It doesn't resemble Lord Ronald.
Well, thank you for sharing that opinion, and I'm sure there are many in the audience who may feel the same way. Yes?
What kind of laser pointer do you use, and how powerful is that?
I use a low-power laser. This is my equipment here. It's a dual-purpose device. It's not sold as a single-purpose device. It's a flashlight that also provides 35 milliwatt laser output in green light. And because of the high sensitivity of my recording equipment, I do not require, in order to render an image on the sensor, I don't require high-powered lasers, although I've worked with field workers using 1 watt and higher powered equipment. That equipment has a range, an active range of maybe 82 miles, but we can also imagine the types of jurisdiction that may come into enforcement over utilizing equipment like that, as well as the possibility of error while exercising that type of equipment. This might only go 3 to 5 miles, but it's absolutely more than effective in my video production. As you may see, that it's implied in the videos that there is a sequential relationship between the laser flashes and the UFO pulses. And so it would seem effective in that application. It would appear that there's a relationship, a sequential relationship between the laser impulse and the UFO impulse based on this evidence. So, you know, if we never conducted the experiment, how are we to tell whether or not the UFOs would behave in the same way? At the same time, you know, it's a catch-22. We only have one take. We can't call up to the pilot and say, you know, we don't know if we got the shot. Can you do that one more time? Everything's being done in one take. So in the course of observation, we're attempting to assess the meaning of that. But I would say that it is highly meaningful interaction for the participant when they see those impulses interacting like that. It's highly meaningful. I mean, if there wasn't any certainty before as to what we're working with, in those moments there is intense and profound certainty that we are engaged in bidirectional communications at that point. Yes?
I have another question. How long would that take to appear, and did it happen in conjunction with the sound?
This image? Yeah, it was concurrent with the soundtrack that I played, and the shutter speed is 1/60th of a second.
So you're playing the sound?
No. I'm reciting the sound as an active participant in the event. My voice is rendered in that recording along with my co-pilot.
So how long would it take this to appear? Like, would it be a 5-minute thing, a second?
Well, to clarify, the shutter speed is 1/60th of a second. So this is a moment in time. Still photography captures moments in time, not motion. This is not an infinite shutter setting. This is a fraction of a second. So what we've captured is an event that occurred in a fraction of a second, and we can anticipate that the materials used in the production, which I will, if you haven't guessed already, is breath condensation. We can anticipate that the breath condensation was actively moving through the course of production. So the clever timing and, you know, architectural positioning of the equipment in order to produce such a bisymmetrical rendering with such iconic implications really astounds professional commercial production houses in terms of their ability to reproduce what is shown here. And I will say to you that having surveyed the available photography on the internet, nothing of this standard has ever been reproduced. I'm sharing with you multiple examples that are iconically related, that are thematically related. The totemic relationship between the positioning of the bird on the forehead in this image is compliant with this crown that is also mounted by a bird, admittedly of lower resolution and of different substance. This is a spontaneous plasma that it's not condensation of breath, it's not water, it's plasma. One is water, the other is fire. And so when we understand that people who practice a lot of intense spiritual meditation begin to cultivate control over the elements, then we see that type of representation in these forms, that the water element and the fire element are represented in intelligent, organized structures. And that those structures bear precedent in the literary traditions of classical cultures. The books were written thousands of years ago, but the images are appearing in the present day. So how are we to understand that such things are happening? How are we to understand that visitors from other dimensions, from other parts of the universe, other periods in time, are sharing this space with us now? And how are we to understand that these signatures, these trace signatures of what are regarded by spiritual practitioners within those cultural contexts as indications of the relationship between humanity and divinity are manifesting in this time? How are we to understand that in these times? What is it specifically about this time in which we live, in which such renderings are occurring, in which such opportunities for personal participation are being made available as well? I think that's a profound question that we can take from today's event, and I hope that you will consider that deeply in your reflections. Now, we might have time for one more question, so I'll go to you.
Do you have any videos of you actually creating this, like demonstrating how you go about doing it?
Yes. In fact, when I acquired my professional video camera equipment, it was with the intention of producing documentation to show third-party perspectives on the practice. And there is video. And in fact, in one of the videos, the form manifests in the video, not on the still camera. So yeah, there is some of that. Although I didn't pursue that further. You see, when I talk about access to resources on a human scale, you know, just getting someone to go out with you in the middle of the night to the forest so you can do your crazy occult practices is kind of a lot of overhead for most people. It's not entirely easy to find other people who can actively participate and support these kinds of practices. So I never really secured the services of a reliable camera operator. I became my own production house, in-house, and did everything. But at the same time, the tribute that I paid to these other parties, James Gilliland, Les Mirza, Dwana Paul, their service was invaluable in that they supported me and facilitated me for long-term stays at the East City Ranch, a 2-month road trip across the southern United States. I couldn't have done a lot of the production without those people's help. So those people did appear, but they are rare persons. It's not easy to get access to resources in this world, particularly for this type of endeavor. But if you can find someone who can help you to pursue your research in these types of fields, hang on to them. They're like gold. All right. Well, it's a great pleasure to speak with you. I'm so glad that you came to today's event. I know there's a lot more fantastic information from valuable speakers who will be in following. And so visit me at my table. I'll be here all day and into the evening. We are going to have a sky watch out on the deck. I brought my night vision scope, and there may be other equipment at hand with some of the other experienced users. We will be doing that after this evening's talk, so great opportunities lie ahead. Wonderful to be with everyone today. My website, yourinnervoice.com. Visit me online, visit me on my table. Come and chat with me. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. Thank you very much.